Now, before I move on, I just want to briefly make a correction here. I've been calling this a Warhawk throughout the last couple of videos. I'm not sure why that name stuck in my head, but it was never really called that on the TV show. It's known as a Mark 9 Hawk. I thought I would point that out because someone definitely pointed it out to me, and so I thought I would make that correction there. Anyway, let me go ahead and move on and show you what I've done so far here. So last we left, I finished this section here. I haven't really done anything else to it. I did work on the decal sheet. I made a lot of progress there. I will show you that shortly. But I've also been working on the front section, this cockpit area here. And so what I've done was sanded it. Didn't really need much sanding, but I also applied some surface detailing, particularly this part here, just using some styrene pieces that I had there, and then these two pieces here. And you can see those are the details here and here. And I just used a strip styrene along with a styrene rod, and then drilled out the middle here with a pin vise. The other detailing I added was to the bottom section, and that's this right here, and this essentially is the weapons turret. On the TV show, you can see it right there, the Hawk was seen with a flashing light that was used during the battle scenes. And so that's what I've added here, and this was created with some strip styrene and a rod as well. And using a pin vise, I drilled out the middle a little bit there. Would have been cool to light that up as well, but I did think about maybe running a fiber optics line, but you'd have to drill through all this, and I just didn't feel like doing that. So I just fabricated that and glued it on, and it's there now. And then I applied some white primer here as well. The only section that's going to be white is this area here. The rest is going to be orange. The main challenge is going to try to build a wall here now to fit these figurines on. This figure is a 148 pilot figure, and so I want to create somewhat of a back wall here of the cockpit. And that's going to be a challenge because you're going to have to follow this contour somehow, so I got to work on that. Now these pilot figures I got off of eBay. The set came with 3 of them, so I'm going to be using a couple of them, of course. And they come molded with a flight suit, but not an astronaut helmet, which I was hoping I could find, but just didn't have any luck doing that. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this. I just may paint this as is and go from there. I may try to create some sort of astronaut helmet. I'm just not sure, but I will leave that for later. So let's go ahead and get started on building out the cockpit there, and I will show you my progress here in just a second. Okay, I thought I'd take a second and catch up on how things are going here with the cockpit. So I was able to construct or cut out a wall here that's going to be sitting about right here. And that was done just through trial and error with construction paper there, just kept cutting out different shapes. And my original intention was just simply to glue the pilots onto the wall, and I think that's what they did with one of the Eagle models, that they just simply glued some figurines here to a back wall. They lit it up from the interior, and of course I gave it the illusion that there were pilots sitting there. But they didn't really add a lot of detailing to this wall. So that's option 1. I think that would work okay. But the other thing I started to think about was maybe we could give it a little bit more depth and not glue the pilots to the wall. Rather put some detailing on this, set it, as I said, around here, but instead attach the pilots to this section here and here. And so we could, so what I did was I actually took one of the figurines here and cut the legs off here up to the thighs, and it's this here that's going to be glued about right here, and that way the pilot will be sitting closer to the window. And if we're going to do that, I have to create some sort of seat for the pilot to sit in, and that's what I'm doing right now. This is going to be done with just this styrene plastic that's has these striations here, and then I'm going to give it a little bit of depth by gluing these rods here to the sides, and then I'm going to cut this just a little bit over the top here and separate it from this just a little bit, just to create the illusion that there's a headrest there. And then this is what the pilots will be attached to, so it looks like they'll be sitting in some sort of seat. But hopefully that'll work out. And what I'm going to do is put one light. I've already experimented a little bit with this here. I've first of all attached temporarily some LEDs here and here, and I lit that up, and then I attached an LED just in the center and lit it up that way, and I found there really wasn't a great amount of difference in the illumination. So I thought I would keep things simple and attach just a center LED that would shine off the ceiling here, kind of reflect off the ceiling, I should say, and that should be enough to illuminate the cockpit area, because the cockpit shouldn't be super bright anyway. It's not like you're going to have a lot of light shining out of there. We just want some illumination, and so that's what I'm going to do, is just use one LED there. And before I install them, I wanted to show you how the pilot turned out painted here. So I used Tester's Chrome Silver for the suit. I used some pinstriping tape that I had so I can create these seat belts, and I ended up painting the helmet orange with a black visor. And real quickly, just to show you how the back wall is coming along here. As you know, I trimmed the piece of plastic to fit into the cockpit area. And just to make it look a little bit more refined here, I decided to go ahead and put some trim along the edge. And this is where an accelerator can help out, because I applied some super glue, dropped in some accelerator, and then repeated the same process along the entire length. And now we have this trim in place now. I'm going to go ahead and trim it, and then we'll add more detailing along the interior. Alright, here we now have the completed interior for the cockpit. This is just going to be the back wall. This now has been painted light ghost gray. This is Tamiya's light ghost gray. And I've decorated it with extra decals that came off the decal sheet that I made for the exterior, which I have to say turned out pretty well. I'll be showing you those shortly. But I was able to add a little detailing here. Not really going to be able to see most of this, unfortunately, so I'm not going to go any further with this, but at least there'll be something there to be sitting behind the pilots there as you look into the cockpit. Alright, let's go ahead and move forward. And here's the completed command module now. So it worked out pretty nicely. I was able to mask off with some fine, good lines here, the black surroundings along with the trim, the white trim. So overall it looks pretty good here. So what's next is to work on the interior now. I'm going to go ahead and install the back wall that I created there along with the pilots as well as the lighting. So I will get you caught up here in a second. Alright, so moving along, I went ahead and started detailing the interior of the cockpit now, pretty much completing it. I've installed the back wall here and went ahead and also glued into place the pilots. Now if you recall, I was thinking about gluing the pilots onto this front wall here to allow a little bit of depth and some spacing between the back of the chair the pilot's sitting in and the wall. But when I tried to do that, I should have thought about this, this is faced at an angle, so the pilots weren't faced properly. I tried to create some support there to get them to face straight, and by the time I was done there was little spacing left, so I went ahead and just put them onto the back wall, and it was much easier to do that. You can see also the 1.8mm LED has been installed. This is a warm white LED. It does a pretty good job at illuminating the cockpit with painting the ceiling white, and the fact that it's a small space to begin with. That's pretty much all you need. As I mentioned, I don't want like bright searchlights coming out of the windows, so it does a pretty good job. I test lit it, and I will show you this when the model is completed, but I think you'll agree it does a pretty decent job lighting everything up there. Also, I installed some side panels here because when you look through the cockpit, these walls were pretty blank, and so I thought it would look better if I created some instrument panels there. So I just cut out some styrene. I used some decals from an old decal sheet. I actually went to my Mobius Flying Sub. I had an extra decal sheet for it, and so it goes to show never to throw anything out. Does a pretty good job at creating some instrumentation there that you can see as you look through the cockpit. Also, you can see the styrene windows have been added. I used strips of plastic white styrene there to place along the edge of the window openings there, and that way I could glue the clear styrene to that white styrene and avoid using super glue on the clear styrene, so we can avoid any clouding issues. And you can see it works pretty nicely there. So cockpit has come along, and what's left now are to do a couple more things here. I have to install the bottom section, and that's what this is here. When I test fit it, there are some gaps along here, so I'm going to have to putty those up before I apply the final orange color. And then the other thing I need to do is paint these side panels here a light gray, much like the gray I use here, so I got to do that as well. Just thought I'd show you the bottom section here before I paint it. There were gaps here and here along this edge, and what's always proved to be helpful in these situations to have this plastic putty by Vallejo. It's a water-based putty, comes with a needle nose applicator, so you can have really good control of applying the putty in the section that you need to, and then you just take a Q-tip soaked with water and just run it along, and you get a nice even application there. Alright, and here we now have the completed underside of the command module, and you can see that the putty worked quite nicely there to hide the gap. Now, one quick painting tip I wanted to throw in here, you might notice already, but in this particular circumstance we had to paint an area that was adjacent to another that was already painted. So you can certainly mask the area off by just applying masking tape as we typically do. The problem with that, though, is that you'll end up with a delineation or demarcation between one section to the other. So if you want a smooth transition, what you do is you just add masking tape here and you curl it in this fashion. And what I did was I applied a number of pieces along the edge there, next to where the two areas were orange. And when you apply your paint, then it creates a feathered effect, and that way the transition is fairly smooth. So as you can see, when I remove the masking tape here, there is no delineation. Alright, so now that that's done, we're going to go ahead and move on now to the entrance.